Every morning, an old woman named Mam walked alongside the river Gambia toward the market. One day, Mam complained, "This journey is too far. I should buy fish for a week so I will not have to walk every day." When Mam reached the market, she purchased all of the kobo fish in the fishermen's nets. "Now I will not have to walk tomorrow," she smiled. When Mam finally reached home, she was sleepy and her neck ached from carrying such a load. She salted and prepared the kobo fish, chewing kola nuts to stay awake. Alas, she could no longer keep her eyes open and fell asleep while the fish were drying. That night, the smell of the fish drifted across the open air. When Mam awoke in the morning, her tummy rumbled. She reached for a piece of fish, but they were gone. Mam grumbled. She collected her baskets and slowly made her way to the river Gambia. Once again, she bought all of the kobo fish in the fishermen's nets. Tired from carrying such a load on top of her head, she began chewing kola nuts right away to stay awake. But as she salted and peppered the fish, Mam yawned again and again. When she could no longer keep her eyes open, she fell asleep. The next morning, Mam's tummy rumbled even louder. She reached for a piece of fish, but once more they were gone. Mam grumbled again. She collected her baskets and slowly made her way alongside the river Gambia. Once more, she bought all of the kobo fish at the market. "Tonight I will stay awake," she promised herself, "and I will catch this fish snatcher on my own." Mam salted and prepared the kobo fish, then hid in the bushes nearby. As she waited, Mam quietly chewed kola nuts. The sun faded away, and Mam's eyes grew heavy. With no one to talk to and darkness closing in, Mam dozed off. Suddenly, a rustling sound awoke Mam. Her eyes popped open and she saw a human-like shadow spying her fish in the compound yard. She lunged out of the bush to capture the fish snatcher. When she was only an arm away from the thief, Mam jerked to a halt. This was no ordinary thief. She found herself face to face with Bookie, the hyena. Bookie the hyena also stopped in his tracks. Bookie was just as afraid of Mam as she was of him, but he did not say so. They stared at each other in surprise for an entire minute. Since neither Mam nor Bookie could admit their fear, they ran at each other. "Fiti fata, fiti fata!" Clouds of dust rose as they fought, twisting and rolling on the sandy ground. Mam and Bookie wrestled so long they tangled themselves in a knot. They were stuck. Neither one could reach the fish, so both of their tummies roared. Their roaring bellies awoke the other villagers. Young and old, villagers came by and laughed at the sight of a woman and a hyena knotted together. "How did this happen?" asked Alcalo, the village leader. Mam explained how she intended to catch the fish snatcher on her own. "But there are others who would have helped you," he scolded. "Please then help me now," cried Mam. "I have learned my lesson." The Akalu turned to Buki to see if he too had learned his lesson. "Moot, moot," howled Buki. "Stealing is wrong." Hearing that both of them had learned their lessons, the villagers gathered to help. They tugged and pulled until finally the two were free of each other. Buki whimpered and ran into the forest to hide his shame. As payment for their help, each villager took one of Mam's fish. After everyone left, the kobo fish were gone. So Mam journeyed once again along the river Gambia. This time, Mam only bought enough fish for one day. She smoked them for a few hours, then ate them easily without falling asleep. When she finally dozed off later that night, she slept soundly. The next morning, the old woman's bones were well rested from such a peaceful sleep. Mam did not grumble about the journey to the market. Instead, she happily greeted her neighbors and bought only enough kobo fish that she could salt and eat before falling asleep. Upon her return that day, Mam vowed to ask for help if she ever needed it, and she never went to bed hungry or tied in a knot for the rest of her life. This was an iStorybooks presentation. Become a fan at facebook.com/iStorybooks.